Welcome to the Dog Help Podcast, proudly sponsored by Positive Improvement and hosted by Christy Kirby Barron. As a certified dog behavior consultant, I'm eager to share my extensive experience and expertise to help you with all of your dog training needs. From tackling common issues to diving deep into the mysteries behind dog behavior, I'm confident I can help provide you with the solutions you need. So don't hesitate to hit the subscribe button and join me on this exciting journey of discovery. Hey, everybody, we're coming back with you with another edition of the podcast. Today I have Lauren King with me. We're going to talk about service dog things, all things service dog. And Lauren is going to share from their perspective having a working service dog and some of the things that they encounter regularly and some of the things that you probably haven't thought about but can now and share to help educate others. Lauren has been a trainer for how many years?
2012, so 11.
11 years. That's been a pretty good long while. 11 years, she has successfully raised a puppy that went on to be a guide dog for a blind person. She has trained and assisted training in service dogs, mobility service dogs. And so I'm going to let you take it away and tell me a little bit about, tell us more about you.
So like she said, my name is Lauren. I am married to someone.
She's married to a phone, a text message that keeps going off, and yeah. So okay, now
I am married to someone who is a wheelchair user and does work a service dog. And I've also, like Christy said, raised a dog for a guide dog organization. Um, Also a groomer and regularly compete in rally and obedience with my personal dogs. But I think we're here to talk about frustrations we have with the public when we go out with a dog. So one of the things that is like a really obvious thing, right, is distracting, petting, trying to kiss at, trying to whistle, calling the dog, talking to the dog. If you see someone out and about handling a service dog, what would you say the best thing to do is?
ignore the dog completely.
Ignore the dog completely. Just act like it's not there.
So I guess for you, even people that don't try to come pet the dog, I know when I'm training service dogs, even people well-meaning who notice the dog and don't actually come and pet them, they don't realize that eye contact and talking to the dog and even saying, "Oh, what a sweet baby," is actually taking their attention off of the person they're working for and could cause problems. Do you find that to be true?
Yeah, so even people that don't talk to the dog will like stare at the dog,
Right.
stare at the dog and smile.
Right.
Right. We're not we don't want to do any of that.
Okay.
The dogs, some of them might be there for mobility, and in that case, that really wouldn't throw the dog off that badly.
Right.
But some dogs are there to be medical alert dogs, and throwing them off to that degree could cause them to miss an alert that could be very dangerous for the handler.
Right. What other things, with regard to people, is it just, I don't know, is it, mainly adults? Is it children? Like, what is an age group that actually needs the most, education when it comes to interacting with a service dog?
So, in our experience, it's usually not kids. It's usually, at the risk of sounding ugly, it's usually really entitled adults of all ages.
Okay.
But it is usually adults who feel like they can do whatever. The kids are usually they'll stare, but they want to hang back because they're not sure.
Gotcha.
It's I don't want to say what I'm going to say.
It's what? Just say it.
The old white guy who doesn't think he has to answer to anybody.
Oh, okay.
That's
Okay.
he's entitled.
An entitled individual.
Entitled.
Gotcha.
Entitled is really the
Entitled. Okay.
um.
Gotcha. Okay.
Please edit that out.
So let's say with adults, what would you tell them? Well, first of all, if children aren't the problem, where do you think their education has come from that they seem to do better than the adults?
I'm not sure it's education. I do hear some adults correcting their children and saying, "Okay, that's a service dog. Don't pet."
Right.
And that's great. I love it
Mhm.
when I hear that.
Mhm.
What I don't love, or what tends to happen more, is that kids unsure, so they hang back.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Gotcha.
they're unsure of themselves, and so they hang back, and that works out great for us.
Right.
Um, but as far as like talking to,
Right.
distracting, it usually happens when you're in line at the grocery store, trying to check out, or, you know, you're standing in front of the milk refrigerator trying to get a gallon of milk,
Right.
and people tend to use that moment to try to talk.
Right.
Um, and I think one of the big things that I really want to make sure we get across today is that just because you see a dog out with its handler, that's not an open invitation to talk. Like, if you wouldn't normally start a conversation in that moment, other than just pretty cold outside, or
Right.
whatever, then it's really not appropriate to go make a conversation right then. What you don't realize is, for somebody like my husband, for example, who already he parks at the end of the parking lot so that the handicap spots can be used by other people. And then he goes in the store, he's just trying to get a gallon of milk, and he wants to just run in, get the milk, pay, get back, right? But it already takes him longer to get out of the truck. It already takes him longer to get the milk out of the refrigerator. It already takes him longer to get his money to get ready to pay. So when you stop him and talk to him, well, what you don't know is that he might have somewhere he needs to be, or he just wants to go about his day just like
Right.
everybody else
Right.
is. Um, and that's not, trying to be mean. It's just the only reason you're
Right.
talking is because the dog is there.
Right.
Then,
It's not a conversation starter, in other words.
right. No,
I
if
think we've all sort of been in that situation. If you've ever had a puppy and gone somewhere with a puppy or the dog, it takes forever to do anything because everybody's like, oh
oh,
my
how
gosh, look
cute.
at that cute puppy. Then I
Mhm.
pet the puppy, and what should have been 5 minutes is now 20 minutes. Is that sort of kind of what you're thinking
Yeah, and then
too?
what ends up happening is that then he doesn't want to take the dog with him.
Ah, yeah, I can see where that's. And
Because I just want to run in and get this one thing,
right,
and it's going to take so much longer.
right, right.
And that's really frustrating.
So, if you could tell me, I don't know, tell me, say, two of your worst experiences with people trying to interact with or interfering with, I don't know if you have more than two, but interfering with a dog while working.
Um, so my husband and I were in Pensacola at just like a touristy shop, and I had told him before, having trained service dogs out in public, I'm like, if you see it coming and can think about it, try to use your body or your chair to kind of block the individual from just walking up and petting you.
Right,
And so he did that, right? He's in his chair, and there's the aisle, and this person is coming from the other side, and he sees it. So he puts the dog between the aisle and himself,
right.
thinking he's going to stop her. But before she ever said a word, she reaches all the way across his lap to go pet the dog without ever asking. And when she did so, she bumped his joystick to the wheelchair.
Oh,
So now she's running the chair into the dog and the aisle. Um,
the audacity.
yeah, that
The
was pretty bad.
audacity.
That one was pretty bad. Hard to come up with a second. to that one because that one was.
I think you and I were working in a Bass. Was it Bass Pro?
Mhm.
When we were working in Bass Pro,
I
when
felt so bad that day. Like you said, I was trigger stacked. Um, we were running late. Christy was teaching a group class. We
right,
all, we're going to Bass Pro to work with our dogs. And at this point, it's pretty advanced dogs.
right,
We weren't taking like young puppies who had never done this. This was all dogs that were
right,
going to compete at a higher level.
right.
We go into Bass Pro. We were running late.
Mhm.
Towns was on one that day. Even service dogs have
Off
off
days.
days, and
Everybody has off days.
and he was still a service dog in training at that time.
Right.
Uh, he was giving Joseph a lot of trouble, and so I took him, helped him get his head screwed back on,
Right.
handed him back to Joseph, and then set my bag down to try to get my treats and my clicker or whatever I needed that day. And in that time that I set my bag down, this lady just walks up and goes, "Oh, what a cute dog!" And I am not proud that I lost it.
But I think everybody. I mean, that's yeah.
I was all like hot, my adrenaline was going, and it was just not good. I didn't cuss at the lady. I was just like,
Right.
"Are you kidding me?
Right.
Which part of do not pet can you not read?" And I
Right.
don't normally behave.
I think everybody could get to their wits end actually with things like that. Um, and another thing, I guess I would like for you to. We're going to go into. There's going to be a whole another podcast on the differences between therapy dogs, emotional support
Mhm.
dogs, and service dogs. But I think everybody has seen either a restaurant or in Walmart or the grocery store where there is a dog in there that they aren't supposed to be there. They're barking at people or they are acting inappropriately, pulling on the leash.
Or they're in the
Otherwise,
shopping cart
yeah, in the
in a
shopping
grocery
cart.
store.
Yeah, in the shopping cart in the grocery store, which should not happen as well.
No.
And so we kind of there are a number of people who are abusing. You see it all over the internet, and it burns me every time I do. You see the ads that are like, "Hey, take your dog anywhere," and it's not. That's an abuse. And yes, if you need an emotional support dog, by all means, don't feel bad about that. But the ads say no training necessary. Well, that's not true because no matter where you take your dog, they should have manners.
Mhm.
And I think we've all seen dogs that are just a nightmare and they're fake. They shouldn't be there. Um, Tell me, have you had instances? Have you run into
I have
fake service dogs?
I have not personally. The big thing for me is the amount of people that will text me or Joseph and ask, "Hey, how do I make my dog a service dog?"
Mm,
People that, you know, I know in real life.
right, right,
um, and I'm like, well, first qualification is be disabled,
right.
legally disabled.
Legally, according to statute.
um,
Yeah,
and then go from there.
right,
Like, and I'll ask them, are you legally disabled? And
right,
most of the time, well, no, but I saw online I could buy this vest
right.
and this patch, and I'm like,
Yeah, no, and
no.
those are people and service dog registries. Those are things that capitalize on people's lack of education and not understanding the difference. And so I think a lot of people think, oh, well, it wouldn't be on the internet or I wouldn't be able to do this if it were not okay. And that's not accurate. You can actually get into trouble with that. So when you're going in places, I know there are some things that when I'm working service dogs in training and things
Mhm.
like that, I know what things irritate me. Um, and one is requiring ID. Have you dealt with that?
um I have not personally, again, but I have heard a lot of it. The thing that's different from me working a service dog and you is oftentimes I'm with Joseph and he's visibly disabled,
Gotcha.
right? So I tend to hear of that more from people who are not obviously disabled to anybody who looks at them. Um, but and so you'll hear a lot of people go, okay, well we need an official service dog registry, right? But what
Right.
does that do? That
Right.
reduces access to people who do need them. You know,
Right.
it will require people to pay for something that they haven't had to pay for before,
Right.
um, and just make it more difficult to the people who need them.
Exactly. And to be clear, the reason why there isn't a registry is because it's not illegal for you to train your own service dog, but they do need to be trained and they do need to be trained for certain tasks. That is advanced training. Some people don't need help, but I'm a service dog coach, and what that means is I help people task train to raise and train their own service dogs, because some people just can't afford the $30,000 that it really takes to do that. And so part of what I do is to help people do that. But if you make them go through a registry, then at some point it is going to eliminate some people who are not able to do like jump through all the hoops. So all of these people who are faking the dogs and taking them where they're not supposed to be, they're ruining it for the people who need it most.
Yeah, they're making it harder for the people who actually need them. Um, I don't know how to get into.
So if when we go in, um, people also don't realize the two questions a business can ask
Mhm.
about a service dog. Like if you're a business owner and you're trying to, some people think you can't ask at all, and that's not accurate. You actually can ask questions, but there are only two questions you can ask legally. So what are they?
So in situations where it's not obvious that the dog is a service animal, staff may ask, is this a service animal that is required for disability? And they may ask, what work or task has the dog been trained to perform?
Okay.
Now, that also means that even if it's a service dog, even if it's a legally trained service dog, if it is being unruly or um, detrimental to the business,
Right.
or having potty accidents in the store, they can still be asked to leave even though it's a legally trained
Right.
service dog.
And that's definitely something, I'm definitely going to go into in another podcast for sure. What about, so you said they could ask for um, what services the dog provides. Does that include showing them?
No, it's not a circus show. um, we we're not here to demonstrate. But
Right.
nobody has to demonstrate anything. They
Right.
don't have to prove themselves in
Right.
any way. Um,
Right. So that, I mean, that's a big thing that, when you say, just to clarify, because I knew the answer to that, but businesses, if they say, hey, is this to mitigate a disability and what services the dog provide to you, they can't ask, they can't ask you to actually show them. So, oh, really? How does he do that? That's not an appropriate question. Or, I don't believe you. Can you show me that?
right, because
Uh,
you're still entitled to your right to privacy. Like
right,
you don't. That's not necessary.
right. And so people, I know a lot of people with the fake service dogs are saying you can't ask me that because of HIPAA. Okay, well, they don't get to ask you the nitty gritty details, but they can ask you if this dog is to mitigate a disability and what services that dog provides, and that is not that's not against the law, and it doesn't violate HIPAA. And if you have a disability that is not um,
Visible.
visible, then you should be prepared to to answer that. You really should.
I think that's fair.
Mhm.
Yeah, if you're not
Right.
clearly disabled just by looking at you, then yeah, you should be prepared to answer those two questions.
Right.
But no further.
Right.
Um,
So there's another thing. We have had a conversation lately, and I'm gonna try to keep you from if you see her face turning red, her face, she can't hide it. She can't lie. So at this point, Lauren, I'm gonna ask you about the blue stripes next to handicap parking. You people, see, I told you her face. You people have uh, there. You guys have seen where there's the actual handicap parking, and then there's a space next to it, and it's got all the little
the
stripes.
crosshatches.
The crosshatches. There you go. Those things do have a purpose. And so tell me about your experiences.
So the crosshatches are there specifically for a wheelchair user or somebody who uses a cane or a walker to have extra space to be able to get in or out of their vehicle. The problem is, just like not all disabilities are visible, not all handicap accessible vehicles scream handicap accessible. So my husband drives a big truck. Nobody would guess from looking at it that
Right.
it's got a wheelchair lift. So we went to a steak restaurant and we were childless. We had a good dinner and we were almost done. And we hear the table next to us talking loudly. And apparently, one of the parties of that table knowingly parked in the crosshatches and knew that what they were doing was wrong.
I think
Oh,
I think everybody knows that when you park in a crosshatch, you cannot say that you knew that was a regular parking space. I think everybody did it on purpose.
well, he did. He said,
Some
and it was
people,
somebody who was actually had a handicap placard, right? It wasn't
right,
somebody that was able-bodied parking there. It was
right,
somebody who honestly needed a handicap
right,
spot,
right.
but not a wheelchair accessible spot. And
Yes,
they parked in the handicap crosshatches because there was not a handicap spot available.
right.
And he said, well, they might ask me to move because I'm in the crosshatches. And another member of their party was like, oh, just pretend you didn't know. Just pretend you didn't know.
That's
It's no big deal. Um,
so
and
not to interrupt, but I do want to say ignorance is no excuse. If a police officer comes by, you will get a ticket for that, and the fact that I didn't know, that you are liable for that, so you can be ticketed for that. So that excuse doesn't fly. I think everybody knows you don't park where there are a bunch of crosshatches. You go for the open spaces. So
well,
anyway,
it
go
was
ahead.
worse than that. Okay, so
Yeah.
we're eating our dinner and we overhear this, and I just kind of look at him and I'm like, did you hear that? And he's like, I did. Did you hear that? I said, yeah, let me go check. Because I wanted to check and see if it was indeed us
Right.
blocked in.
Right.
And I walked outside and discovered it was. But worse than just parking in the crosshatches, they were also on top of the ramp to get.
So you couldn't not only could you not get off the step down, but you also couldn't get in the truck
Couldn't get in
either.
the truck or off the curb
Nice.
until they moved. So we did ask the manager
Nice.
to have them move. And the manager was very apologetic to them.
Yeah,
I'm so sorry.
to
I'm
them.
gonna. He
Wait,
apologized. He apologized to us too.
Okay, but
He
to
did
them.
apologize to us too, but he does go to the table and was like, "Is somebody? I'm so sorry to interrupt, but is somebody parked? A red, whatever car it was. Yeah, I'm so sorry, but I'm gonna have to ask you to move. It's in the handicap crosshatches. I'm so sorry again. I
Yeah, I guess it is very frustrating to have someone apologize to an individual who is in the wrong,
and knowingly in the wrong.
knowingly in the wrong. But I guess from a business owner's point of view, I can see where it's sort of kind of hard
I know.
to not handle things to cause the least amount of bad feelings toward the staff. But oh, that's pretty tough, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
That's
frustrating.
pretty tough. So we I know other people. We've been encouraging Lauren to take a picture of the tag, post it on Facebook. There
One time we were at the zoo and that happened.
uh
It was like a 90 something degree day.
Yeah.
And we decided to leave because it was too hot. And we go outside and we're blocked in because someone's in the crosshatches. And when Joseph went to customer service, I didn't mean to name him. When he went into customer service,
Right.
he, told them the problem. They
Right.
stepped outside and they recognized the vehicle.
Right.
It was an employee at the
Oh.
zoo. But
Well, the point is, if you are bold enough to ignore that and to impede somebody else's ability to go about life normally,
right,
I don't see a
because what
problem
if
with calling you out on that. Like, if you don't want to be posted and put in that position, don't park there.
yeah,
Um,
because I mean, what if he has a doctor's appointment and needs to leave by a certain
right,
time,
right,
or just you don't have the right to take up someone's day like that.
right.
When it happened at the mall one time, it was 2 hours before we
Two
found the driver.
hours.
Because mall security didn't want to call a tow truck. The Hattiesburg Police Department, they said they couldn't do anything because it was a private parking lot, which I found out later is BS.
Wow,
So they
that's good to know.
Hattiesburg PD wanted the mall security to handle it, and mall
Right.
security wanted Hattiesburg PD to handle it. And next
Nobody
thing you
wanted to
know,
be the bad guy.
Joseph just went in for a 15-minute haircut.
And that was a two
It
and a
turned
half
into 2
hours.
hours because somebody was shopping, and we had no way of knowing whose vehicle it was.
Right. Right. We Hey everybody, we're back. Turns out we needed a potty break, and what I mean by that is one of the dogs pottying on the floor. Actually, it was hers, not mine. So you'll have to join us for another podcast on potty training.
Yes,
Yeah.
but
So,
we did actually have a guest come in.
but we did that too. But okay. So let's see. Where did we leave off? We left off at probably parking in the wrong spots. Probably is where we left off. But we were kind of one probably one last thing I wanted you to tell us about is you mentioned that someone reached across and hit the joystick for the wheelchair. And when I have worked with um, clients who needed service dogs,
Mhm.
one thing that I found was proper etiquette is that you don't mess with their equipment. It's not a piece of furniture. I mean, tell me about that.
So there's a couple things. Don't move their stuff or their medical equipment, right? So
Hmm.
Joseph will place things in the house
Right,
or at work where he can reach it because he can't reach the same things that you and I do.
right,
Um, but also, when you say it's not a piece of furniture, funny story is that he can be in a grocery store line and people will like get up right up behind him and lean on his chair.
that's too much. Just
um,
uh-uh.
no, because you wouldn't invade someone's personal bubble like that if
Right,
they weren't in the chair.
right,
It's not yours. It's not a leaning post. It's not a handrail.
right.
Um, I don't know.
It's rude. It's rude for
Yeah.
for anything. I think.
Yeah, I think if it were an able-bodied person, if you wouldn't walk up and touch them,
Right,
then same thing if it's somebody who's disabled.
right,
We shouldn't be treating them any differently. They still deserve their own personal bubble.
right. I don't know how he feels, but in working with service dog clients as well, some of them are rather touchy about you helping them. Like etiquette for that is generally, from what I understand, is you ask, "May I help you?"
Or wait for them to ask for help. Oh, and accept no for an answer if they say no. So one common thing that happens with Joseph is putting groceries on the back of his truck.
Mhm.
He wants to put them up there because he knows he can get them out in a
Yeah,
specific way.
right.
If somebody comes over, oh, here, let me help you, and starts putting stuff in the truck, he may not be able to get that out when he gets home, and I may not be home to help him.
Oh, and it's especially bad if it's old stuff.
Yeah. And so just know that there's a specific way that they're doing something
Right.
for them. And, if the help is wanted, they'll ask you for it or they'll accept it. Oftentimes, if you drop something and someone's standing nearby and you go, hey, can I pick that up for you? Yeah, please.
Right.
Um, but the thing is that if he says no,
Accept that.
accept the no. Don't, oh, are you sure?
Right.
I don't mind doing it. And then they start doing it anyway.
Right. Yeah.
That's not cool.
I can
And,
understand that. I
and
can
it puts
see
him
that.
in a bad spot, right? Because he doesn't
Right.
want to be rude. You're trying to be nice.
Right.
Um, and your help may not be as helpful as you think it is.
And that's um definitely something that I can see, that their needs aren't the same
Mhm.
sometimes as what we might perceive them to be. I can see where that could be a problem as well. So we're about out of time. I thank you for joining me. Is there anything that you would like to part with?
No, I don't think
No,
so.
that's
Thank you
it.
for having me. I hope you have me
Absolutely.
back again.
I will. I
Uh,
will. I'm certain I will have her back. We'll be talking about more things other than service dog related. Like I said, she's a great trainer, and
that's very nice of you to say.
there's I taught her how, so I mean, not really, not really. Fun fact before we go: when she met me, she hated me.
You'd like to tell that story.
I do
It makes
like
me
to.
sound so bad.
I do. Okay, first of all, she was a teenager, so that explains
I
most
was
of it.
like 19.
Yeah, so that explains most of it right there. But yeah, it's a great story that that's when I rubbed her wrong when we met. And
Well, you told me I was doing everything wrong.
well, you were. But
That
anyway,
your predecessor thought was right.
reason why that was my predecessor. Um. So anyway, fun fact though, we're great friends, and lots. We took us a bit to get on the same page, but she certainly, when we got on the same page, she jumped on it with both feet. So great trainer, done her for a
Thank
while.
you.
Lots to bring you in the future. So thanks everybody, and join me again. I think the next one is going to be on. I can't decide. It may be on potty training. It may be on destructive behavior. I gotta run down my list.
There's a whole list.
There is a whole list. So if you have suggestions, reach out to me, and look for the link in the description. Reach out to me and give me some suggestions. Bye, y'all.
Bye.